Ambassador Daniel Harrison knew he was going to die. The 7-foot-tall Zalthori guards that entered his cell left no room for doubt. Their scaled skin gleamed under the harsh purple lights as they grabbed him with their four-armed grip. "Your execution is scheduled for the next rotation," the lead guard said through his translator. "The High Council has found you guilty of espionage." Daniel did not struggle. At 53, with gray streaks in his brown hair, he had served as Earth's ambassador to the Zalthori hegemony for 8 years. He knew their ways. Struggling would only bring pain, not freedom. "I demand to speak to my staff," Daniel said, keeping his voice steady. The guard made a clicking sound that the translator did not catch. "Your staff has been detained, except for one who managed to escape, a traitor like you." Sophia, Daniel, felt a flash of hope. Sophia Martinez had gotten away with the data. That was all that mattered now. 20 minutes later, Daniel stood on a platform in the central square of Zalthor Prime. Thousands of aliens watched from below, their multiple eyes blinking in what humans had learned was excitement. Floating camera drones hovered nearby, broadcasting the event across the galaxy. "Daniel Harrison of Earth, you have been found guilty of spying against the Zalthori hegemony," announced Grand Executor Krell. His massive head crest flared red with authority. "The penalty is death, to be carried out immediately." Daniel looked directly into the nearest camera drone. He had one chance. "I am innocent of these charges," he said clearly. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them to look at the Proxima files. Tell them—" A guard struck him from behind. Daniel fell to his knees. The executioner stepped forward with a ceremonial blade that hummed with energy. The broadcast went out to all corners of known space. On dozens of worlds, beings of all kinds watched as the blade came down on the human diplomat's neck. On Earth, in the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, the viewing screen went dark. President Kevin Ellis stood frozen, his face pale beneath his dark skin. Around the large table, military leaders, politicians, and advisors sat in stunned silence. "That was live?" Ellis finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. General Patricia Wright nodded. "Yes, Mr. President. The Zalthori made sure everyone saw it." Admiral Edward Grant slammed his fist on the table. "This is an act of war. They executed our ambassador without a proper trial, without evidence." On the other side of the room, doors burst open. A young woman with a security team rushed in. Her clothes were dirty and torn. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Mr. President," the security chief said, "this is Sophia Martinez. She was Ambassador Harrison's chief aide. She escaped Zalthor Prime 3 days ago." Sophia stepped forward. Her dark eyes were red from crying, but her voice was strong. "Mr. President, the Zalthori killed Ambassador Harrison because he discovered something terrible. I have the proof." She placed a small data drive on the table. "They're planning to attack Earth. The espionage charge was fake. They killed him because he found out about their plans." Intelligence Director Alan Powell took the drive and plugged it into his tablet. His eyes widened as he reviewed the contents. "She's right," Powell said. "These are Zalthori military plans, fleet movements, weapons development." He looked up. "They're building something at Proxima Centauri, something big enough to destroy a planet." The room erupted in voices. President Ellis raised his hand and silence fell again. "How reliable is this information?" he asked Sophia. "Ambassador Harrison died getting it," she replied. "He made me promise to bring it to you. His last official act was sending me away with this data." Ellis nodded slowly. He turned to General Wright and Admiral Grant. "What are our military options?" Admiral Grant's face was grim. "The Zalthori have us outnumbered but not outgunned. Our new quantum weapon systems could give us an edge. If we strike first and hit hard, we're talking about war," interrupted Vice President Helen Davis. "An interstellar war that could cost millions of lives." "They've already started it," Sophia said quietly. "Ambassador Harrison was just the first casualty." President Ellis walked to the window. Outside, the Washington Monument stood tall against the blue sky. How many Earth monuments would still be standing if the Zalthori attacked first? He turned back to the room. His decision was made. Admiral General, I want attack plans on my desk in 6 hours. We will not wait for them to bring the war to us. His voice grew harder. The Zalthori have made a terrible mistake. They think humans are weak. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The news of Ambassador Harrison's execution spread across Earth like wildfire. Video clips played on every screen. People gathered in streets and parks, their faces showing shock, grief, and anger. In New York City, the United Nations building was surrounded by protesters demanding action. They carried signs with Harrison's last words, "Tell Earth what happened here." Inside the building, the Security Council chamber was packed. Admiral John Blackwood stood before the gathered representatives, his uniform crisp, his face showing the strain of 3 sleepless nights. The Zalthori have made a critical error, he said, pointing to the star map displayed on the large screen. They believe their numerical advantage makes them unbeatable, but they have not faced humanity in open warfare before. He touched a control, and the map zoomed in on several key systems. Operation Righteous Fury will target these Zalthori military bases first. Our new quantum weapons technology gives us an edge they don't expect. Senator Olivia Westfield, head of the Defense Committee, leaned forward. Her red hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her green eyes intense. Admiral, I've known Daniel Harrison since we were children. He was a man of peace. Would he want this war? Admiral Blackwood's face softened slightly. Senator, Ambassador Harrison died trying to warn us of a planned attack on Earth. The best way to honor him is to make sure his sacrifice saves lives. Sofia Martinez sat quietly at the back of the room. The past week had been a blur of debriefings and security meetings. She had barely had time to mourn her mentor and friend. Her tablet pinged with a message. It was from Ryan Cooper in intelligence. Meet me after, found something strange in the transmissions. President Ellis entered the chamber and everyone stood. He looked tired but determined as he took his place at the podium. Today, I am authorizing Operation Righteous Fury, he announced. The Zalthori hegemony has committed an act of war against Earth. They have executed our ambassador without just cause. They are building weapons aimed at our destruction. The room was silent as he continued. I do not take this action lightly. War brings suffering. But sometimes, war is necessary to prevent greater suffering. The Zalthori gave us no choice. Across the solar system, military bases hummed with activity. Ships that had been on standby for years were now preparing for combat. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Weapons were loaded. Battle plans were studied. On the moon base Alpha, Captain Grace Sullivan watched her crew board the EFS Vindicator. The ship was Earth's newest and most powerful warship, built with technology that had been theoretical just 10 years ago. Captain, on deck, called her first officer as she stepped aboard. Sullivan nodded to her crew. Many were young, barely out of training. None had seen actual combat. Neither had she. At ease, she said. We launch in 6 hours. We will be the tip of the spear in humanity's response to Zalthori aggression. Meanwhile, Ryan Cooper waited in a secure room deep beneath the Pentagon. When Sofia Martinez arrived, he quickly closed and locked the door. What's so urgent? Sofia asked. Ryan ran a hand through his short blonde hair. I've been analyzing deep space communications. There's something weird going on. He pulled up data on his screen. Look at these transmissions between the Zalthori and the Arcturian collective. Sofia studied the patterns. They were in communication before Ambassador Harrison's discovery? Yes, and with other species too. The Draconids, the Vega Consortium, the Rigelians. What does it mean? Ryan's blue eyes were troubled. It means the Zalthori aren't acting alone. They're part of a larger group, and they all started communicating more frequently right after Harrison was executed. Sofia felt cold. You think this is bigger than just the Zalthori? I think, Ryan said slowly, that someone wanted us to go to war, and we just gave them exactly what they wanted. Back in the Security Council chamber, President Ellis signed the formal declaration of war. As the document was being processed, Admiral Blackwood's communicator beeped. Sir, said a voice, the fleet is ready for your command. Admiral Blackwood looked at President Ellis, who nodded grimly. Launch Operation Righteous Fury, Blackwood ordered. May God help us all. Across the vast darkness of space, Earth's warships began to move. Humanity was going to war. Captain Grace Sullivan stood on the bridge of the EFS Vindicator as it dropped out of hyperspace. The ship shuddered slightly, then steadied. Ahead, the Arcturus system spread out before them, a bright yellow star surrounded by 7 planets, and the largest Zalthori military base outside their home system. Status report, Sullivan ordered, her gray eyes fixed on the main view screen. All systems operational, Captain, replied her first officer, Commander Frank Davis. The rest of the fleet will arrive in 2 minutes. Lieutenant Benjamin Taylor, the weapons specialist, checked his console. Quantum disruptors at full charge. Targeting systems locked on the Zalthori defense platforms. Sullivan nodded. She was 42 years old with short blonde hair and 20 years of space service. But this was her first actual combat mission. Everyone on the bridge felt the weight of the moment. They were about to fire the first shots in humanity's war against an alien power. Enemy ships detected, called out the sensor officer. 5 destroyer-class vessels moving to intercept. On the view screen, the sleek purple ships of the Zalthori fleet appeared, moving in perfect formation. They don't seem surprised to see us, Commander Davis noted. Sullivan frowned. Intelligence had promised the attack would catch the Zalthori off guard. Something wasn't right. All hands to battle stations, she ordered. Prepare to engage. The rest of the Earth fleet arrived. 20 ships dropping out of hyperspace around the Vindicator. The formation was perfect, just as they had practiced countless times. Open a channel to Admiral Blackwood, Sullivan said. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He was on the EFS Dreadnought, commanding the overall operation. Captain Sullivan, you have permission to engage. Show them what humanity can do. Sullivan turned to Lieutenant Taylor. Target their lead destroyer. Fire when ready. Taylor's fingers moved across his console. Firing quantum disruptors. Brilliant blue beams shot from the Vindicator, crossing the space between the ships in seconds. They struck the Zalthori vessel's shields and passed through them as if they weren't there. The alien ship exploded in a flash of purple fire. Direct hit, Taylor exclaimed. Their shields failed completely. Sullivan allowed herself a small smile. The new quantum weapons worked even better than expected. The Zalthori shields, which had been thought to be impenetrable, offered no protection. All ships, engage targets. Admiral Blackwood ordered over the fleet channel. Press the advantage. The space around Arcturus lit up with weapons fire. Earth ships moved with precision, their quantum weapons cutting through the Zalthori defenses with ease. The alien vessels responded with energy blasts of their own, but they seemed slow, disorganized. This is too easy, Sullivan muttered. On her personal screen, a message appeared from Lieutenant Taylor. They're fighting like they don't know what they're doing. Sullivan agreed. The Zalthori were known for their military prowess. This didn't make sense. Within an hour, the battle was over. The Zalthori fleet was destroyed, and the space station orbiting Arcturus IV had surrendered. Prepare a boarding. Team, Sullivan ordered. I want to see that station myself. 2 hours later, Sullivan stood in the command center of the Zalthori base. Alien bodies lay where they had fallen. The few survivors had been secured in the lower levels. Captain, you need to see this, Lieutenant Taylor called from a computer terminal. I've accessed their battle logs. Sullivan joined him at the screen. Though she couldn't read the Zalthori language, the tactical displays were clear enough. They had no idea our weapons could penetrate their shields, Taylor said. Look at their deployment pattern. They were positioned to fight old-style energy weapons. They didn't know about our quantum technology, Sullivan realized. How is that possible? We've been developing it for a decade. Maybe they weren't watching us as closely as we thought, Taylor suggested. Sullivan shook her head. Something wasn't adding up. In the commander's office, she found a strange communications device, different from standard Zalthori technology. Get this to intelligence, she ordered. As the Earth fleet secured the Arcturus system, News of the victory spread across human space. For the first time since Ambassador Harrison's execution, people felt hope. But on the Zalthori homeworld, in a deep underground chamber, Grand Executor Krell received the news of the defeat with a strange smile. "Excellent," he said to his advisors. "Everything is proceeding as planned. Alert our allies. Phase 2 can now begin." Dr. Linda Freeman stared at the holographic display in her lab on Luna Base. Data from captured Zalthori communication systems floated before her, patterns slowly forming as her translation software decoded them. Linda was 38, with dark skin and curly black hair cut short for space living. As Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, she had spent 15 years studying alien cultures. Now her expertise was being used for war. "Computer, focus on transmission cluster 447B, she said. The hologram shifted, highlighting a series of messages. Between the Zalthori and another alien race, a soft chime announced a visitor. Ryan Cooper from Intelligence entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Any progress?" he asked, handing her one of the cups. Linda nodded. "I think the Zalthori were expecting us to attack Arcturus. Look at these supply shipments." She pointed to a list of dates. "They moved most of their valuable equipment out 3 days before our fleet arrived." Ryan frowned. "That's impossible. The attack plan was top secret." "There's more," Linda continued. "I've identified communications with 5 other species: the Draconids, the Vega Consortium, the Rigelians, the Taucidians, and the Procyon Unity." "We thought they were all neutral," Ryan said. Linda pulled up another display. "Not anymore. They've formed a defense pact with the Zalthori. They're calling it the Galactic Coalition." Ryan set down his coffee cup. "This changes everything. We're not just fighting the Zalthori now. We're facing 6 alien civilizations. And they seem to know our plans before we make them," Linda added. In Washington, President Ellis received the news with a grim face. The Joint Chiefs of Staff and key cabinet members sat around the large table in the Situation Room. 5 more alien species have joined the war against us," Ellis said. "Our intelligence suggests they've been planning this for months, possibly years." Admiral Blackwood stood by the tactical display. "Mr. President, we still have the advantage of superior weapons technology. The quantum disruptors worked better than expected at Arcturus. But for how long?" asked Defense Secretary Clark. "Once they adapt to our technology, their combined forces will outnumber us 20-1. Ellis turned to Sofia Martinez, who had been made special advisor to the president after delivering Ambassador Harrison's final message. "What would Daniel have advised in this situation?" he asked quietly. Sophia thought for a moment. He would have looked for the true motive. 6 species don't form an alliance overnight. They must have a bigger goal than just defeating humans. "What about Proxima Centauri?" Ellis asked. Harrison mentioned the Proxima files in his final message. Intelligence Director Powell nodded. "Our scouts report massive construction in the Proxima system. We think it's some kind of superweapon." "Then that's where we need to focus," Ellis decided. Meanwhile, in deep space, the Earth fleet continued its advance. 3 more victories followed the Battle of Arcturus. Human ships moved deeper into Zalthori territory. On the EFS Vindicator, Captain Sullivan received new orders. "We're being redirected to Proxima Centauri," she told her officers during their daily briefing. "Intelligence has detected unusual activity there." Lieutenant Taylor brought up the star map. "Proxima is close to Earth, only 4.2 light-years away. If the enemy has a foothold there, they could strike directly at our home system," Commander Davis finished. "Exactly," Sullivan said. "Which is why we need to find out what they're building." The Vindicator and 3 other ships changed course for Proxima Centauri. They traveled in stealth mode, their engines modified to leave minimal energy signatures. As they approached the red dwarf star, sensors detected massive structures in orbit around Proxima b, the system's rocky planet. "I've never seen anything like it," said Taylor, studying the sensor readings. "It's like they've built a partial Dyson sphere around the planet." Sullivan ordered maximum magnification on the view screen. The structure came into focus, a vast framework of metal and energy fields surrounding half the planet. "What is it?" Commander Davis wondered. Sullivan had a chilling realization. "It's a weapon, a planet killer." She turned to her communications officer. "Send an emergency message to Earth, maximum encryption. They need to see this." But as the message was being transmitted, alarms blared across the bridge. "Multiple contacts," shouted the sensor officer. "Ships dropping out of hyperspace all around. Us." The view screen showed dozens of vessels appearing. Draconid destroyers, Regelian cruisers, Vega battleships, and more. "It's an ambush," Sullivan realized. They knew we were coming. On the largest ship, an alien commander watched with satisfaction as the trap closed around the human vessels. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "No survivors." The EFS Vindicator shuddered as another enemy blast struck its shields. On the bridge, Captain Sullivan gripped her command chair. "Damage report," she ordered. "Shields at 38%, Commander Davis replied. "We've lost 2 of our 4 quantum disruptors." Around them, the 3 other Earth ships fought desperately against overwhelming odds. The ambush had been perfectly executed, 30 alien vessels against 4 human ships. Lieutenant Taylor worked frantically at the weapons console. "Captain, I've analyzed their attack pattern. They're not trying to destroy us. They're herding us away from Proxima B." Sullivan realized he was right. The enemy ships were positioned to force them away from the planet and its mysterious structure. "They don't want us to see what they're building," she said. "Transmit everything we've recorded so far to Earth. Use all available channels." Before the communications officer could acknowledge the order, a massive energy surge erupted from the Proxima structure. A pulse of blinding light washed over the battlefield. "Brace for impact," Sullivan shouted. The wave hit the Vindicator with tremendous force. Systems overloaded. Lights flickered, but when the chaos subsided, the ship was still intact. "Status?" Sullivan asked. "Minimal damage," Davis reported, sounding surprised. "But our communications array is completely fried. We can't send or receive messages." Sullivan frowned. "That was deliberate. They wanted to cut us off." She made a quick decision. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed. We need to deliver this intelligence personally." The Vindicator and 1 other surviving Earth ship broke through the enemy formation and jumped to hyperspace. Back on Earth, Sophia Martinez and Ryan Cooper worked late into the night in a secure room beneath the Pentagon. They had been compiling and analyzing all available data on Ambassador Harrison's final days. "Look at this again," Sophia said, pointing to a security video. The day before he was arrested, Harrison downloaded these files from the Zalthori Central database. Ryan studied the screen. "Those aren't military plans, those are geological surveys of Earth." "Exactly," Sophia said. "Why would the Zalthori be studying Earth's geology in such detail?" Ryan opened another file, one of the few they had recovered from Harrison's data. "These energy readings from the Proxima construction?" His eyes widened as he made the connection. "They're building a device to trigger geological instability. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. They're planning to destroy Earth from within," Sophia finished. "Not invasion. Genocide." They immediately reported their findings to President Ellis. Within the hour, an emergency meeting was convened in the Situation Room. "If these findings are correct," Ellis said gravely, "the alien coalition doesn't want to conquer us. They want to eliminate us completely." "But why?" asked Vice President Davis. "What threat do we pose to them?" Dr. Linda Freeman, called in from Luna Base, had a theory. "It might be our potential, not our current capability. Humans have advanced more in the last century than most species do in a millennium. Perhaps they see what we could become." Admiral Blackwood was focused on more immediate concerns. "The Proxima weapon must be destroyed before it can be activated, but our fleet is spread thin across 20 star systems. And we've lost contact with Captain Sullivan's task force at Proxima," added General Wright. "We have to assume the worst." The mood in the room was grim. Earth faced extinction, and their forces were overextended. Then a junior officer burst in. "Mr. President, we've just detected ships dropping out of hyperspace in the outer solar system." Everyone tensed. Had the enemy attack begun? Identification? Ellis demanded. It's the Vindicator, sir. Captain Sullivan made it back, and she's requesting an immediate secure channel to you. She says it's about the Proxima weapon. For the first time in days, a flicker of hope appeared on the president's face. Meanwhile, in orbit around Mars, the damaged but defiant Vindicator approached the Red Planet's military base for repairs. Captain Sullivan looked at the blue-green Earth visible in the distance. No matter what it takes, she promised silently, we will protect our home. On the Zalthori homeworld, Grand Executor Krell met with the representatives of the other 5 species. The humans know about the Proxima Nullifier now, said the Draconid. Ambassador, we should activate it immediately. Krell's head crest flared with colors. No, the device requires 3 more days to reach full power. We stay with the original plan. And if the humans attack Proxima before then? Krell made a gesture of dismissal. Let them try. The combined might of our 6 civilizations guards the nullifier. Not even human ingenuity can overcome such odds. The alien leaders seemed satisfied with this assurance, but none of them noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner of the room, its recording light blinking steadily. A drone whose programming had been subtly altered by a human sympathizer. Among the Zalthori technicians, Earth's orbital defense stations detected the incoming ships first. Alarms sounded across the planet. In homes, offices, and public spaces, emergency broadcasts interrupted regular programming. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Unknown vessels approaching Earth. All citizens should proceed to designated shelters immediately. Captain William Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the EFS Defender, the oldest battleship in Earth's home guard. 10 years past its planned retirement, the ship had been pulled back into service when the war began. All Home Guard vessels form defensive pattern Alpha, Rodriguez ordered. Civilian ships maintain evacuation corridors. 30 ships responded, moving into position around Earth. It was all that remained to defend humanity's homeworld. AII, mix of outdated warships, converted freighters, and experimental prototypes not yet ready for combat. Rodriguez was 49, with gray streaks in his black hair and more experience than any other captain in the fleet. But even he had never faced odds like this. Contact report, he demanded. Over 100 alien vessels, Captain, replied his sensor officer. Configuration matches Draconid, Regelian, and Zalthori design. Rodriguez studied the tactical display. The enemy force was massive, enough to overwhelm Earth's defenses easily. Where is the main fleet? He asked. Has Admiral Blackwood been notified? His communications officer looked grim. The main fleet is scattered across 7 star systems. Sir? The nearest ships are 5 hours away at maximum speed. In 5 hours, the battle would be long over. On Earth's surface, Natalie Price led a team of engineers deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The bunker complex had been built decades ago as a last resort shelter for government officials. Now it was being converted into something far more important. The shield generator needs to be online in 30 minutes, Natalie told her team. Each minute after that, we lose 10 million people if the attack begins. At 35, Natalie had been the lead engineer on Earth's advanced defense projects. Her current project, Aegis, was an experimental planetary shield designed to protect at least part of Earth's surface. Dr. Price, the power couplings can't handle this load, one engineer protested. We're asking them to channel 10 times their rated capacity. They don't need to last forever, Natalie replied. Just long enough. In Washington, President Ellis and his crisis team had relocated to a bunker beneath the White House. Reports flowed in from around the world as the evacuation proceeded. Paris reports 63% civilian compliance with shelter orders, an aide announced. Tokyo at 89%, Lagos at 71%. Ellis barely heard. He was focused on the special communication from Captain Sullivan, who had just arrived from Mars via emergency shuttle. The Proxima Nullifier will be fully operational in less than 3 days, Sullivan explained. But our intel suggests they might have a secondary weapon with the invasion fleet. Can we destroy the one they're bringing here? Ellis asked. Possibly, Sullivan replied, but only if we can locate it. Space around Earth lit up as the alien fleet opened fire. The Home Guard ships responded, their weapons blazing against the darkness. On the Defender, Captain Rodriguez watched as 3 enemy ships exploded under concentrated fire. But for each one destroyed, 3 more took its place. Shield status? He asked, as the ship shook from a direct hit. Down to 42%, sir, his first officer reported. We can't take much more of this. Rodriguez made a quick decision. Target their command ship, all weapons. The Defender surged forward, its engines straining as it broke formation. Other Home Guard ships followed, understanding the captain's plan without being told. They would sell their lives dearly to protect Earth. In the underground facility, Natalie's team worked frantically. Warning lights flashed across control panels as systems were pushed beyond their limits. Aegis at 70% power, an engineer called. Out. Harmonics unstable. Natalie made adjustments to the main control board. Reroute auxiliary power from sections 3 through 7. Outside, the battle raged across Earth's orbit. The Home Guard was fighting with everything they had, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The EFS Defender took devastating damage as it approached the alien command ship. Sections of the hull were torn away, exposing decks to vacuum. But still it pressed on. Quantum disruptors offline, reported the weapons officer. Switching to conventional missiles. Captain Rodriguez nodded. Get us within minimum safe distance. Everyone on the bridge understood what that meant. They would not be coming back from this mission. As the Defender closed with the massive alien vessel, Rodriguez sent OL. Admiral John Blackwood stood in the command center of the EFS Dreadnought, watching the tactical display with growing horror. Earth was under attack, and his fleet was too far away to help. Maximum speed to Earth, he ordered. Every ship Ev. His communications officer looked up from her console. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Zalthori Space. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Put it through, Blackwood said. A hologram appeared, showing a maintenance drone's recording. Grand Executor Krell and the other alien leaders were discussing their plans. The Proxima Nullifier requires 3 more days to reach full power, Krell was saying. We stay with the original plan. Blackwood listened intently as the aliens revealed the location of the Nullifier's control systems and its weaknesses. Who sent this? He demanded when the recording ended. Unknown, sir. But the transmission signature suggests it came from within, the Zalthori government complex. Blackwood made an immediate decision. New orders to the fleet. The Vindicator and Battle Group 3 will continue to Earth. The rest of us are going to Proxima Centauri. On Earth, the partial shield held, protecting about 1/3 of the planet's surface. But the areas outside the shield suffered terrible destruction as alien weapons rained down. In the underground facility, Natalie Price worked desperately to strengthen the shield. Power systems were failing. Components burned out from the massive energy flow. We need to expand the coverage, she told her team. Too many people are outside the shield. An engineer shook his head. The system wasn't designed for this much coverage. We're already exceeding all specifications. A communication came through from the White House bunker. It was Captain Sullivan. Dr. Price, we've discovered the location of the enemy's secondary weapon. It's a smaller version of the Proxima Nullifier designed to destabilize Earth's core. Our sensors show it's in a carrier ship still holding position outside our atmosphere. If they activate it, Natalie began. Total planetary destruction, Sullivan finished. We need to take it out. How? We don't have any ships left that could reach it. Sullivan's face was grim but determined. We have one option left. The prototype. In a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Lieutenant Benjamin Taylor inspected the ship called Nova. It was Earth's most advanced warship, so new it hadn't even been officially named yet. She's not ready, Taylor told Sullivan when she arrived. The quantum drive is unstable, the weapon systems aren't calibrated, and half the hull plating isn't installed. Will she fly? Sullivan asked. Technically, yes. Then she's ready enough. Within an hour, Sullivan, Taylor, and a volunteer crew had boarded the Nova. The ship rose from its underwater dock, water cascading from its sleek, incomplete hull. "This is Captain Sullivan to all Earth Defense Forces," she broadcast. "We're making a run at the carrier ship holding the planet killer. Give us whatever cover you can." The few surviving Home Guard ships acknowledged. They would create a diversion, while the Nova went for the main target. The Nova rose through the atmosphere. Its experimental engines pushed it faster than any Earth ship had gone before. But the strain on the unfinished vessel was enormous. "Hull temperature critical," Taylor reported from the engineering station. "Quantum drive showing signs of containment failure. Keep it together just a little longer," Sullivan urged the ship as much as her crew. Above the atmosphere, the remaining alien fleet detected the approaching vessel. Ships moved to intercept, but the Nova was too fast. "Target locked," Taylor announced. "Quantum disruptors charged." Sullivan gave the order. Fire. Brilliant blue energy lanced from the Nova, striking the alien carrier. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the carrier's hull began to crack, energy spilling out. "Direct hit on their weapon system," Taylor confirmed. "But their reactor is going critical. The explosion will be—" "Get us out of here," Sullivan ordered. "Maximum speed, any direction." The Nova turned and accelerated away as the alien carrier exploded behind them, taking several nearby enemy ships with it. But the Nova couldn't escape the shockwave. It hit the human ship like a physical blow, sending it tumbling through space. "Status!" Sullivan called out when she could speak again. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, someone reported. Quantum drive offline, conventional engines at 20%. They were alive, but stranded in space with a crippled ship." Then Taylor looked up from his console, his expression changing from despair to hope. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. Big ones." On the main screen, ships began to appear, dozens of them. Earth ships, led by the massive form of the Dreadnought. "This is Admiral Blackwood to all alien vessels. Your planet killer is destroyed. Your coalition fleet at Proxima Centauri has been defeated. The nullifier is under our control. Surrender now or be destroyed." For a moment, there was silence. Then one by one, the alien ships began powering down their weapons. On the Nova, despite the damage and danger, the crew cheered, but Sullivan remained focused on her console. "Lieutenant Taylor, look at these readings from the Dreadnought. How did they get to Proxima and back so quickly?" Taylor studied the data. "They didn't, Captain. They must have found a way to create a direct hyperspace jump. Something we thought was impossible." Sullivan smiled for the first time in days. "Admiral Blackwood always did like to make an entrance." 6 months after what became known as the Battle of Earth, the planet was healing. Cities were being rebuilt. The dead were mourned and honored, and humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. In Geneva, the new Terran Protectorate headquarters gleamed in the sunlight. The massive building combined architectural styles from all Earth cultures with elements inspired by friendly alien designs. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, President Ellis addressed representatives from 27 species. Some had been allies during the war. Others had been enemies until the surrender. A few were newly discovered civilizations, eager to join the new galactic order. 6 months ago, we faced extinction, Ellis said. Today, we extend a hand of friendship to all peaceful species. The Terran Protectorate is not an empire. It is a defensive alliance, guaranteeing the sovereignty and safety of all its members. In the front row, Sophia Martinez sat next to Dr. Linda Freeman. As the new Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, Sophia had been instrumental in forming the Protectorate. "Do you think it will work?" Linda whispered. "So many different species working together?" Sophia nodded. "It has to. The alternative is more war, more destruction." After the Battle of Earth, the alien coalition had collapsed. The Zalthori leadership was overthrown by its own people. The other species quickly sued for peace when they learned they had been manipulated. The truth, revealed by the mysterious Zalthori informant, was that Grand Executor Krell and a small group of extremists had engineered the entire conflict. They had executed Ambassador Harrison because he discovered their plans, not to defend against human aggression, but to eliminate a potential rival before humans became too powerful. Admiral Blackwood, now heading the Protectorate Defense Force, stood at attention as the honor guard brought in a large covered object. Today was not just about the future. It was about remembering the past. "It is my privilege," President Ellis continued, "to unveil the memorial to those who gave their lives in the defense of not just humanity, but all free people of the galaxy." The cover was removed, revealing a statue of Ambassador Daniel Harrison. His face was calm and dignified, his hand extended in a gesture of friendship. A hush fell over the assembly. Even alien representatives who had once been enemies bowed their heads in respect. Ambassador Harrison's final act was not to call for vengeance, but to warn us of a threat to our existence, Ellis said. "In his honor, we dedicate ourselves to ensuring such a threat never rises again." After the ceremony, Captain Grace Sullivan stood on the observation deck of the new ship Peacekeeper. It was the first of a new class of vessels, part warship, part diplomatic carrier. Sullivan had been given command after her actions in the Nova saved Earth. Lieutenant Benjamin Taylor, now her first officer, joined her at the window. "The fleet leaves tomorrow," he said. 10 ships to start, with more being built. Our mission is to explore and establish diplomatic relations with new species." Sullivan nodded. "And to keep an eye out for any remaining threats." The quantum technology that had given humanity an edge in the war was now being shared with Protectorate members. The direct hyperspace jump that Admiral Blackwood had pioneered, by modifying alien technology found at Proxima, had opened up new regions of the galaxy for exploration. "Do you think there are more hostile species out there?" Taylor asked. "Probably," Sullivan admitted. "But there are friendly ones too. The universe is too big for any one species to dominate." In a quiet corner of the memorial garden, Admiral Blackwood stood alone before a wall listing the names of those lost in the war. Captain Rodriguez of the Defender, the crews of countless ships, civilians who had died in the bombardment of Earth. So many sacrifices to achieve peace. "Admiral?" A young officer approached. "The Council is requesting your presence. The Draconid ambassador has questions about the defensive perimeter." Blackwood nodded. The work never ended. But that was the price of their new position in the galaxy. In orbit above Earth, dozens of ships from different species moved in harmony. Trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, and the HFY Stories.